One, two, ooh. Go down a little bit. That's probably around ideal. Yeah, I would say that's an ideal. Yep. Perfect.
Okay.
Brenda, what is up? How you doing?
Well, I'm doing reasonably okay.
That's good.
You know, given all things considered.
Well, I mean, do you just out of curiosity, like these streams get to you, or do you more see this as like something you do kind of for fun, or like, or do you generally sometimes leave these things feeling like uh hurt or angry or resentful or whatever?
Oh,
You
when
don't
when
have to
people
answer
when
that. I'm just
people are
curious.
vicious bigots and transphobes, then yes, I'm hurt and angry. Yes, I am. But I do these things because I enjoy debating with people that I don't agree with, um, and so I enjoy trying to formulate arguments to support what I believe.
Okay, but you would say like if it, as long as it doesn't um end up in like as long as there's not bigoted or transphobic or like hate speech that ends up happening, you're generally more just you're not it's not personal to you. It's like
I'm
you're
trying
kind.
to, yeah, I'm trying to understand and to give counter examples. I mean, by now I have rather a few relatively well developed ideas. I'm pretty certain I'm atheist, and I'm not really thinking that many people can um, dissuade me of that. I'm open to being to an arguments, but I don't think any exist. So, I like people like Tom Jump. I know you've been in his Discord, and other
Mhm.
people like that who do those kinds of debates, and I like to participate too.
Right. Um. Yeah, sure. And I mean, I just like personally, I don't think Smokey's characterization of you is quite fair. I mean, he's notorious for the sort of pejoratives. Well, I think almost everyone is prone to when they do feel like there's a moment where they could maybe make a remark or call a name that would be particularly like it would kind of excite and empower their own base.
Well, he's a very stupid man, and so he gets easily
Mm,
flummoxed, and
I wouldn't say that, but
the natural reaction then is to react out of fear and anger. No, he's
I
stupid.
I
He's stupid. If you think that, if you're a person and you think that the no true Scotsman fallacy isn't a fallacy, you're an idiot.
okay, I'm not sure what context. Wait, didn't we? I'm not sure what context you're applying that to Smokey with. I thought we like. I vaguely remember going over the applicability of that with Christianity, but I don't entirely remember it. But I can't just like take your word on that. I just don't really remember the conversation. I don't think Smokey's stupid at all. I think he's actually very smart.
Well, I had to teach him basic logic. He didn't understand the difference between a sound argument and a valid argument.
Well, I think like there's probably even like brilliant people out there that also aren't aware of that.
No, there aren't. Well, nobody that claims to be into philosophy and logic would think that, because this is like um, logic 101, chapter 1, paragraph 1. They'll tell you
Well,
what the
yeah, but
difference
that it's
is.
kind of a formal, it's a very formal approach. Like I think someone could be savvy naturally savvy without technically knowing the discrete definitions of soundness and validity.
Well, okay. Well, he's just resistant to any kind of information that is new to him. He reacts in a very negative way to any kind of disagreement. So I don't have a lot of respect for him because I don't think he's even close to. I don't think he's really even a Christian because no Christian I've ever known acts the way Smokey does. I don't think he's a Christian.
Okay, I
I think
mean,
he's an RP. I think he's a RPG Christian. He likes to play one on the internet.
like a LARPer or whatever they
Yeah,
say,
he's
right?
just a larper. Like I think most of the people that go into, um, like Praise and Smokey and the other people there, they're RPG Christians. This is something they do, um, as far as to make themselves feel better. But their personal lives, I doubt any of them would lift a finger for another human being. I just don't
Okay,
think
and
they
you're
would.
entitled to your own opinion. I don't think I know them well enough to like tell you that
No,
you're
I don't have
100%
a lot
wrong.
of respect for them. I don't have respect for Praise. I don't have respect for Gavin, or I don't have respect for any of the other people that were in that hangout with Smokey. I don't have respect for them because they're disgusting people. They're just horrible people. Whether they're Christian
Okay,
or not is irrelevant. They're just repulsive people.
okay, and you're entitled, and that's
Yeah.
how you feel.
So
I'm not
about
okay.
so
Fair.
about this issue, the point about the Council of Trent is that it disagrees with Protestantism, which says that simple faith alone is sufficient for salvation, and the Council of Trent says that well, you need to basically work with God, and so faith without works, as they say, is an empty faith, and works without faith, is another thing. So if you actually believe, is what they're saying, then it will show in your works. And that's one reason I can say that people like Smokey and Praise and those people aren't really Christian. Because if they were, they wouldn't act the way they do. Their works, their behavior would change and it would show. But they don't show that. So I
How
don't
would their
think
behavior change?
they would be decent human beings instead of disgusting filth.
Yeah, but how can you laterally? I mean, maybe not you particularly, but I'm pretty sure you have done this. It's kind of like if you juxtapose the criticisms of God or Jesus in that they drowned babies or they involved unnecessary suffering or that the X, Y, and Z. If that's something that is invoked as a criticism of God, then why would even act far less damaging or violent or whatever in in terms of like how Smokey behaves? How would that even be inconsistent with a characterization of God that is often used to
So,
discredit him as
right.
all good or whatever?
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying that because God has ordered people to kill babies, what Smokey does is okay.
Well, that no, I'm using the common atheist framing. So, like the common atheist framing is that God can't be all good, and this is not. I'm not saying this is every atheist,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it is.
yeah, it
Yeah. So
is.
it's common to invoke certain things in the Old Testament, particularly that God did that were violent, hurtful,
Right,
damaging.
right. I
Yeah. So
understand. Those,
then, but if you take that position, then I don't think you can simultaneously hold the position that anything Smokey is doing is not is outside of the realm of within the works of God, particularly since he's not killing babies, drowning baby killing.
well,
So it seems like it would.
the point of that is to point out the hypocrisy. The claim is that God is omniscient, omnipotent, and omnibenevolent, and then the atheist points to instances where that doesn't seem to be true, right? But you would think that if somebody purports to be a Christian, they behave like one instead of
Well,
like
yeah,
gutter
but
trash.
no, but what I'm saying is that it you could if the Christian is justifying these acts of God as while to a someone that doesn't have the full context would seem reprehensible and evil, but the Christian says no, this was done to sort of achieve a greater good, a greater goal, then it would certainly not be hypocritical for them to do something like
Oh, okay, I get it. I get
bad
it.
bad no, yeah, that's
Well,
so
sure,
it's kind of
sure.
like yeah.
I mean, if you want to go with that, I mean, and I don't. I think that that's going to be a pretty minority position. Think you're going to have a
But I
hard
think
time
that
convincing
it,
people that it's okay to be a complete um, asshole to people because God says um, God has ordered people to kill babies, or rather that um, divine command theory just is
well,
whatever God
in
says
certain
is what
context,
goes. I mean,
well, the
you
watered
can put
down
that
version.
forward, but good luck finding people to go along with you on that. You're not going to find many.
Well, I would say the watered down version is that abrasiveness, or even more colloquial, tough love, in certain contexts, is not inherently evil, bad, or wrong, or out of line with the overall sort of dogma of Christianity and what God teaches.
Yeah, I think that you can try for that, but you're not going to find very many, if any, people who are actually going to um, accept that, because
Well,
for most people, a belief in God, in Jesus, is an emotional commitment, and one of universal love and compassion, and so they're just not going to accept your tough love version of Christianity. They're not going to.
well, sure, but I don't even think Smokey purports that his version or his interpretation of Christianity is something that's practiced by most people. In fact, I think that I mean, the Catholic Church, his criticism of the Catholic Church alone, I mean, by definition, is him rejecting how many millions, if not even over a billion. I don't think the Catholic Church is over a billion, but it definitely in like the tens of hundreds of millions of people. He's outright, explicitly saying this is not real Christianity. So I don't think he's concerned with oh, this wouldn't fly with the majority of people that identify as Christians. I think he's trying to go for, well, this is what it really teaches, and if there's a lot of people claiming to be Christian and don't agree with that, I don't care. It's not my
Yeah.
problem, you
Well,
know.
um, uh, the news, the internet says that it's 1.2 billion Roman Catholics in the
Okay,
world.
so it was around.
That's what they say. It's the BBC News. So anyway, either way, it's a lot of people, and
Yeah.
so if you and the other people in that group want to commit yourselves to anti-Catholic bigotry, then have at it, because you're going to have a hard life. Because you're not going to, it's just not going to be accepted by anybody. It's just not.
Why is that? Is that an argument against whether or not it's
It's an
valid, or
argument.
is that an
It's
argument for
not a.
just like,
It's not an argument against the facts. It's an argument that you're just going to be in a community that's very small, and
well, so I mean,
reviled by the majority of Christians.
and how many times throughout history has a small community that was reviled by the majority done something that was heroic? I mean, the civil rights movement, the gay rights movement,
What
women's
heroic?
suffrage, overturning like the Civil War against slavery, the
Yeah.
idea that black people weren't, eventually weren't just before like all of these things at times were minority views that pissed a lot of people off, and these people were considered assholes, but they felt very
Well, if you
strongly
want
about
to,
what they believed.
yeah, if you want to take roll that dice, I don't think that you're going to find the results very, very, um, very good for you. I just don't
Well,
think
why
so.
would but
I
but
think
who but
most
who's
people.
concerned about results? If you really are passionate about
Well,
something, right? Like if you're
you were just making an argument about results, about doing heroic things or something.
oh, I'm just saying there's a precedent for things that would be unlikely to have good results having been pivotal and heroic
Yeah,
moments in
yeah,
history.
it's
And they didn't do
possible.
it.
It's possible, but
Well, but those
I
people
don't think it's
but,
likely.
but those people, Brenda, didn't I don't at least as far as I can tell, they didn't do it because they were thinking this is gonna make me like it's not like Martin Luther King is like, oh, like I'm doing this because it's the quickest the path to being loved and celebrated and rich. It's like he just believed in what he was saying, and this is what the concept of a martyr is, right? That you're willing to die for something because you believe it so strongly, even if it has horrible results for your waking
Well, I don't.
life.
It seems rather a lot of drama that you're dreaming up here. You're not going to be asked to die for your bigoted beliefs
Well,
about
no, not die, but
Catholics.
just maybe, like you said, maybe 1.2 billion will hate them. So let's
No,
just
they'll
use
just.
that as the
I
example.
don't think so. They're just never. You're just never going to be. You're never going to register even a blip on anybody's radar.
There's people saying that about people that, women's
Yeah,
suffrage, civil
I
rights movement,
suppose.
gay rights movement, like I said, like, would you feel comfortable posing that same argument to people that were like, you know what, I don't really think that people just because they're black, they have darker skin, should be treated as slaves. And then imagine you, well, okay, good luck, you're not going to be a blip on the radar. It's like, well, I'm
Well,
glad that they persisted regardless because
Well, there's a big difference
they,
between being against the enslavement of human beings and being, as I perceive Smokey, to be simply a vicious asshole.
well, there's a subjective difference to you because you don't believe in morals. So it's at the end of the day, what I'm defending is people standing for what they believe in, whether or not they can
I
expect,
do believe in morals, by the way.
a lot of push.
I do believe in
Okay,
morals. I
but
just
oh
think
sure, but
they're,
not
I think,
objective.
right, they're
Okay,
just
but what I'm saying is
relative. They're
what I'm
relative.
saying. Okay, so what I'm saying is that there's a historic precedent for people sticking up for what they believe in, despite the fact that they
Yeah,
are aware that it's overwhelmingly likely they'll get a lot of pushback and they'll be reprimanded. They'll be maybe
that's
even
fine.
cast out of society, or but it's a good thing that there were certain times people did this regardless because it resulted in the greater good. So
Yeah.
your argument of good luck, you probably aren't going to fare too well. Doesn't it just doesn't seem like a good argument for not sticking up for what you believe in anyway.
Well, I just don't think that I perceive the group of people like Praise, Jesus is Lord, Smokey, some of the others, as being basically a group of people with various personality disorders who get together on the internet and LARP as Christians in order so that they can verbally abuse other people. That's what I
And there's
think.
a, yeah, and there's a ton of people that I'm not one of them, but there's a ton of people that would say I think all, trans people or gay people are a bunch of people with mental illnesses that are going around, this, that,
Yeah,
and the other.
I understand that opinion. It's not
Yeah.
supported by any facts, but it is an opinion. So
Well,
yeah, it is. It's an
well
opinion.
then, well now this is becoming a my facts are facts and yours are not facts.
Well, you don't
It's
have any
not.
facts to support your opinion. That's what makes it an opinion.
Wait, but it's not even my opinion. I made it clear that's not my opinion. You said I think that these people, Smokey and these people, I think that they're this. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, you're entitled to your opinion. And then there's, a nameless, faceless group of people that think you're doing something equally as bad.
Yeah, but
And then you're,
the difference is that that's just their opinion, whereas I have
whereas
facts on
your
my
opinion
side.
is facts.
No, it's not my
Okay,
opinion. Facts
what?
aren't opinions. There's a difference.
So so how you feel about Smokey and the other people? It's not an opinion.
Oh,
It's a
it's
fact.
definitely my opinion. Yes, that's my opinion. But when we're talking about things like homophobia and transphobia, um, I can support the case against homophobia and transphobia with facts and not opinions.
Okay, let me try to process that. So you okay? So
It's my opinion about people like Praise, Jesus is Lord, Smokey, Gavin, some of the others in there, whoever they were. I don't really
you have
remember
a
their names.
personality. You said
My
personality disorder,
opinion
right?
is I don't respect those people. I don't. That's my opinion.
Well, but you just said they have a personality disorder, right?
Yeah,
Is
I
that
think
based on fact or?
no. That's just my opinion too. It might be true. I think in some cases it is. In some cases it just might be
But
that
if
they're
some
meant.
people think that, and if some people think, oh, Brenda just comes online to troll and 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 has a personality disorder, that's not that you're saying that that actually can't be based on fact.
Well,
Like
I
it's
could
all
have a personality disorder as just myself in virtue of having one. However, it is not in virtue of being transgender that I have a personality disorder. I could plenty
Oh,
of
okay.
people
I agree with you
yeah,
there. Yeah.
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 Plenty of people
Okay.
who are gay or trans or whatever do have personality disorders or do have mental illness. But being gay and being trans is not itself a mental illness. It's not classified as
Okay, so
mental
I would agree.
illness.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm glad we cleared that up. So someone could say, I think Brenda has a personality disorder and comes online to troll, blah blah blah. But the
Yes,
distinction here
you
is
could.
that you're not attributing any of you're not attributing Smokey or whoever else. You're not saying like, oh, they're like this because they're Christian or they're like this because they're white. You're
Oh,
basing
it's
it
not
on their
right.
behavior.
Right, correct. It's not because I
Okay.
don't even know if they're white or not. I don't know their race
Or
or
yeah,
anything.
I just made that up. I don't know if they're white
No,
either.
I
I guess
understand.
Christian
I
would.
understand too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and not because they're
Okay,
Christian, but because just their behavior is asshole-ish. I mean, they're
okay,
assholes.
okay. I
That's
do
the
understand your
common
argument
way
then,
to
and
put it.
that is consistent. Yeah, that is that. At least you're,
Yeah,
I
he's
understand
just an
your position now
asshole.
that you clear that
Right.
up.
So
That is consistent.
right. And so what I do, I'll let you in, is I have a lot of experience debating people who believe the Earth is flat. Some moderate amount of experience debating people who believe in creationism of some kind, usually young Earth creationism. And also, I read and try to learn a lot of basic philosophy, and that's sort of my interest these days. And so that is my interest. And when I go into places, when I hear Smokey say some of the things he did, like being just shocked about what I said, which is perfectly ordinary, that the Pope says that it is conceivable that atheists could go to heaven, because they earnestly seek God. That's what he said, right? And then he's totally shocked about that. That's just an ordinary thing. To be all honest, it caught me off guard when he reacted that way.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
I didn't think that would be controversial. I knew that that the group of people don't accept Catholics, but the subject was, can atheists go to heaven? And that's an obvious um, answer or opinion that would most people would bring up, which is the Pope has said that it is possible for non-believers who earnestly seek God to possibly be saved by the grace of God. He said what the Pope said is that he didn't want to restrict God's grace, and that maybe it is possible under God's grace that somebody who earnestly seeks God but nevertheless does not believe could in fact end up being saved. That's what he said.
Hmm.
And
Okay,
yeah,
and to be fair, I I'm not as versed in like all the separate sects of Christianity and how certain sects, like Protestant, have beliefs that don't intersect with Catholic and the evangelicals, and I'm not versed enough to be able to like parse out
I
and give
understand.
like
I understand.
yeah, I just don't have sufficient insight to comment on that. But I guess I can maybe understand your frustration.
I have developed I've had a lot of experience. I've developed somewhat of a thickish skin, and so it doesn't bother me as much. If I actually respected Smokey, I would probably be more affected. But since this is just what I expect from him, it doesn't bother me. Because what do you expect from a piece of shit? You're gonna get shit.
Yeah, I don't think he's a piece of shit. Honestly, I think he has
I think so.
the, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. I think he uses deliberate and targeted language, but I don't think he's actually out to truly,
I I
um,
I think that's a defense
like take
mechanism.
stuff.
I think he's afraid. When people react in anger, it's because they're afraid. If you frighten a dog, the dog will. If you frighten a
Sometimes.
dog, the dog will snarl at you, maybe even bite you. Anger is a consequence of fear, and so the
Not in
anger
every
they
situation, though.
not in every situation, no, but I kind of think that with a lot of these cases, I get it from flat earthers too, because it's pretty easy to destroy flat earthers' arguments, and when I do, they immediately get extremely angry. They shout you down. They say they swear and curse and all kinds of
I've
things
been
like that.
subject. Yeah, I've been subject to that too. I think Nathan Thompson banned me at one point, and maybe unblocked me, and yeah, I've definitely incurred the wrath of the flat earthers, and I know where you're coming
Yeah,
from with that.
yeah. So
Um,
I think that that's an indication of fear.
in some
It,
cases, yeah.
okay.
I don't know that I don't know. Again, I think Smokey is very deliberate in how he acts and behaves. I don't personally see it as a defense mechanism, but you're entitled to your opinion. Um,
So you're saying that
so
his
yeah, I
anger.
mean,
So you're saying his anger is more calculated.
um, I don't. So I think that his I guess you could refer to it as like vitriol is not always angry, although it might sound angry. He's had moments of in my opinion, genuine anger, but I think the vitriol or the reprimanding or the condemnation, it comes off as it might come off as anger, but I don't think it's actually anger most of the time. I think it's just deliberately him thinking this is how I'm going to tease out the truth and reveal it to this person. It might, like I said, tough love. Like it's a tough love approach. Um, I don't all. I'm not going to say that it's never he never gets angry, but I don't personally sense anger um, in as ubiquitous of a way as you seem to think. Uh, Everything he says,
Well, it
like
sure seemed like
it
anger
is.
from this end.
Hey, that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. That's and look, I'm also a subjective person, so maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I don't know. I think that he's just you know what I think there's something to be said about I do personally think that modern culture, especially modern, progressive left American culture has become unbelievably depraved to the point of like, I don't personally care if someone behaves like Smokey in order to combat that. I mean, even if Smokey was an atheist and was lashing out against some of the things that I consider depraved and degenerated in American culture,
Well,
I would
I
similarly
can.
be like, okay, like that's I don't think I think he's genuinely 100% a Christian, but like I'm so personally disgusted by some of the culture norms and just the way uh, Western culture has tilted in. Is that's like even if an atheist behaved like Smokey, I'd be like, okay, that's tactical. You know what? We do have to combat this, and if this is working, then good. Like
I
I
don't.
consider like
Because of
yeah.
there's degeneracy that you disagree with. That's why.
I would first use the word depravity.
Well, I don't know
Um,
what you mean by that. I mean, that's just it's
like
just
I think well I think it's depraved. Modern American culture is becoming more and more depraved, and sort of degeneracy is maybe like a subsidiary of that, but it's more and more depraved as time goes on, in my opinion.
well.
As in, like American culture and Western culture at large on the liberal progressive end, as far as I can tell, it's basically what I see is that it's trying to um, completely throw out the idea, the concept of um, individual personal agency, and basically just say that if and when people do things that we regard as bad or immoral, it's because they're on some deterministic path to do that thing, and there's no actual agent that can be blamed for it. So this is what I consider. This is a very depraved approach, in my opinion, to society, because it sort of it actually just it removes blame entirely from the human condition,
Yeah,
and
I don't
in
see
doing
that at
that,
all. I don't see that at all. Not in the larger culture. I don't see that anywhere. I don't think anybody is saying that nobody is ever responsible for anything.
well, I don't mean in terms of like the sort of axiomatic rape murder things, but I mean like in terms of I come back to something a lot. Well, two big things for me, and I think me and you've had a back and forth on this. Um, Not only abortion, but hookup culture. When I see um, the idea of hookup culture moving farther and farther in terms of how it's not only is it accepted, I feel like Teen Vogue and Vice. It's almost like it's time to start having gay sex with have a gay bromance with your guy friend because prostate orgasms are just the best. And it's like this is the sentiments like this are actually being pushed to the point where it's almost just like what on earth is happening in my
Well,
opinion, because
what's happening is that alternate forms of sexuality are being more accepted, and therefore they're going to talk about it. They're going to talk about bisexuality and homosexuality, and they're just going to talk about it in an open way. And I don't have any problem at
okay,
all
well,
with
well, here, sure.
popular magazines and popular media talking about homosexual or bisexual sex acts any more than about heterosexual sex acts. I think
Okay,
sex should be guilt free, and people should be safe, and they should have fun.
okay, that's where we disagree then. Because I personally think that there are. I guess I would not use the word orientation because I'm not talking about gay people, but like there are definitely certain sexual perversions that are like outright dangerous. For
I
example,
would imagine.
gay or straight, if you have a fetish for not using condom, like, or not. It's not even a fetish. If you just say it feels better, right?
Yeah,
Like
I
if you're
would
gonna,
disagree with that on moral grounds. It's immoral to subject your partner to potentially being exposed to an STD. That's not cool.
right? Okay, so so let's take that into consideration. Now let's say you have, like, okay, invoke other fetishes, like maybe you like to, maybe you're into BDSM, and like blood gets involved when you have sex with your partner. That's also a little bit more dangerous.
Well, people should be safe. Um, I don't really myself care for the BDSM scene, but
Well,
I don't. But I
but if
don't.
someone did,
Yeah, I don't care for it myself, but it doesn't bother me. And I think that as long as people stay safe and right and don't.
but that's the kicker though. Like,
Why?
there's a spectrum of literal
Yeah,
danger,
there is.
risk of
People,
bodily harm.
well,
Yeah, so
people,
why would we not discourage the preferences or fetishes for the most
uh,
dangerous things
I would
and try to,
put the, yeah, I understand. I would put the emphasis on safety, right? I don't think people,
well, how safe can you be if your fetish is unprotected sex that involves making your partner bleed? Like, I'm
well,
sorry,
I'm
you're not,
I'm not
you're
terribly
not.
familiar with the BDSM scene, but that's not something I see have seen a great deal of.
Well, do you think
I
there's a
have had.
spectrum there's certainly a spectrum of, hey, being into, you know, wearing a condom and like giving your,
So
like, I'm gonna wear a condom, my partner's gonna give me a hand job. That's probably on the safest end of the spectrum. And then like I want to see blood, sweat, and tears and have unprotected sex. That's like on the opposite end of the spectrum. So
yeah,
there definitely is sexual preferences that are inherently more dangerous than others.
yeah,
And and
I don't think that unsafe, unprotected sex, which involves exposure to blood, is going to be. I think it's going to be looked down upon by the BDSM community. My opinion. I don't know what things are like in that community, but
well, do you know that unprotected anal sex is like
yeah, that's
way more
bad.
likely to be exposed to blood?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you should
Well,
wrap that.
we're
You
in a
should wrap
predicament
that
here
thing. You
then.
should. What? No, BDSM. They will
Well,
have.
you can tell people. No, no,
They
I'm
have.
just saying, like, unprotected anal sex is
Yeah, that's
like
not a good
orders
thing.
of magnitude.
That's not really. That's looked down upon in the gay community, as far as I'm aware. What the fuck do I
Looked
know?
down upon.
Yes,
So how prevalent is it though?
I have no idea. I don't. I sort of
Well, Brenda, I'm
I
sorry. At
became
this point,
exposed.
it's just an argument from ignorance.
Yeah, I
I mean,
became
crunch
exposed
the
to.
numbers.
I became
Look
exposed
up the numbers.
of
They're
numbers of what?
backing in the gay community.
Do you
They're
look that up?
backing. Not
Do you,
only to mention are they're more promiscuous, but air backing is huge. It's you're just at way, like,
I don't.
it's not. I
Okay.
hope I'm not telling you news that HIV spread in the gay community for a reason. Like,
It spread by
why do
both.
you think?
It spread by both. So I don't
Well, no,
know.
it's way more. It's just way more spread in the in gay community.
I don't know.
Do you know why?
These aren't things that I look up an awful lot. I don't. I'm
Well,
sure.
okay, I'll give you
I'm.
a brief biology
Yes,
lesson.
I'm sure you know much more about it than I
An
do.
so the rectum and anus is not, it didn't evolve to have an erect penis
Well, neither
shoved
did the
into it
mouth. Neither did the
repeatedly.
mouth. The mouth didn't evolve.
Oh,
To,
the mouth can open way wide. Like, the mouth isn't.
yeah, but it didn't
It's just
evolve
you
to
open it to
take
eat food.
it
Oh
didn't
no,
evolve
food
to
goes
take
into
in
the
a male,
mouth. No,
right?
no, the mouth evolved to have food go into it. The butthole
Yeah.
did not evolve for anything to go into it.
Well, I don't know,
Just
but
stuff comes out of it.
If you say so, I guess you're the expert on this, but I don't know. I think that the
Yeah,
amount.
so the reason that HIV spreads way more in the gay community is because you're gonna break blood vessels when you have anal sex because that tissue gets torn way
Well,
easier.
that's why you
And
should
if there's
use.
seminal fluid,
Right. That's why you
well,
should
Brenda, I
use.
know, right? That
You should use
it's that simple. It's that
a
simple. Just
condom
tell
and
them to use a
lubrication.
condom. Just
Yes.
accept the fact that HIV clearly isn't working because HIV is rampant in the gay community at levels way higher than the straight community. So you can say, well, just use protection, but they're not doing it. But like it is a silly solution, right? It's like, how is this any different than just telling? Just it's like the argument from abstinence, right? It's like, oh well, Christians don't advocate for unprotected sex. So I don't see how you can invoke when teenagers have sex and get pregnant. That's not what we're talking about because what we're advocating for is not to do that. And it's like, well, if you would, well, okay, unfortunately, that's not working. There's a problem, right? And so the problem is that gay people aren't listening and they're not always using protection, and STDs are spreading at extremely higher rates. So you can say, well, we told you to wear a condom. You're not, it's not working. That hasn't worked for 40 years.
Yeah, I don't understand why this is. It's just other
All right.
people's.
So with that said, I don't see why, you know, if like it's not about rejecting someone's entire identity or orientation, but I don't see anything wrong with saying, yes, it is depraved to embrace uh, uh, anal sex as normal and healthy as
Well, it's not the
other
sex
forms
that
of
you
sex.
object to. It's not the sex that you object to. It's being unprotected, right?
Well, uh, I guess if you like if you actually hold the opinion that like one won't likely eventually lead to the other, then I guess what you're saying is true. But that's a very
Yeah.
naive, extremely naive
I
opinion
think that
on human nature.
I think that homosexuals can practice safe sex just like heterosexuals can. And I don't think.
Can or do. Like again, this is like why are you unwilling to just look at the data and see that they're not doing it?
I don't
It's
know what the data is. I refer to you because you know this. But I don't. But I'm just saying that my emphasis would be on encouraging people, heterosexual or homosexual, to not engage in unprotected sex and to be safe and to not risk themselves or their partner. That's what I would say.
that's great. That's great and all, but I don't see why we wouldn't say like avoid this thing that's more harmful if you can.
Well, for the same reason, I wouldn't say that to somebody who is hetero. People have a right to engage in
I would
sex.
say that to both.
Yeah, I
I
suppose.
wouldn't say like, oh, it's only bad when gay people have anal sex, but it's fine when straight people do it. No, I'm saying sodomy. Let's say let's not encourage that and celebrate that and embrace that and put that in teen vogue. Like, let's not do that. Why would we do that? I don't
Reading
see
a
the
lot
point in
of
doing
Teen
that.
Vogue, are you?
What?
Reading a lot of Teen Vogue, are you?
Let's just say I've got my finger on the pulse in terms of
Uh
culture
huh.
norms, and I what's being normalized and what's not. I turn
Well,
on Netflix
I would
and
just,
within
I would
I
just,
put on a Netflix. I was with my girlfriend, and this isn't meant to be anything other than a total anecdote. So this is not an actual argument. But I was with my girlfriend, and I literally put on. I turned on Netflix. I put on like a random show, literally a random show. The first 3 minutes of this show involved like a scene of like high school girls. I think they weren't even like seniors. They were like sophomores or juniors in a girls' bathroom, and there's like four girls, doing their makeup in the mirrors and chatting and gossiping. But then in one of the stalls, one of the girls is like pulling a condom out of her friend's vagina that because the girl claims it's stuck in there. It's been in there for like days, and now it's like poisoning her body. So like one girl's like reaching like forearm up into her friend's vagina to pull out this used condom.
I don't
Uh,
I don't
it's
know,
like
but I think forearm might be a bit of an exaggeration.
okay, maybe like wrist, fine. But like the point is like I just when I see that, I'm like I know for a fact there's a form of entertainment in terms of a TV show that wouldn't have to have that scene. And
Yeah,
it
but it's
doesn't
Netflix. They have
like
R-rated shows too in addition. I mean,
no, but yeah,
if you want
there's
to
difference
restrict your
between
viewing,
artistic license.
you
So yeah, again, this is my opinion. Artistic license to involve graphic content, in an
well
artistic way is one thing.
you
I
have a
don't see
filter. You can apply a
the risk.
filter.
I don't.
What's
Wait, listen. I don't see the
if
high
it
schooler
bothers
with her
you,
wrist
if it
up her friend's
bothers you,
vagina.
hit the filter. I mean, if it bothers you, you
No,
can
no, no, no. It's not
restrict.
about. You're missing the point.
Yeah, I
You're missing
am.
the point. It's not that it bothers me. It's that I intuitively recognize it as not artistic license, as an agenda to normalize something that I view as depraved. There's a difference
Normalize
here.
what?
That teenagers like have so much casual sex and have such a lack of regard for uh general safety that like they let random guys, I guess, have sex with them and then leave the condom in their vagina for days. Like used
Um,
condom, like that's never. First of
well, I
all,
don't know
that
the
doesn't even happen.
context.
Period.
I don't. I
Well,
have no idea if it
yeah,
happens or not. But it seems to
well,
me
it was a
that she
fictional
was.
show. I'm not. It didn't actually happen, but
What was
like
the name of this
when
show?
I damn, let me look it up.
You
What
don't
was this
have
called?
to.
It
You
was
don't
literally
have
the
to. I'm just curious.
it was
But
the first scene of the first episode, and I'm like thinking to myself like, this is I could be wrong, but like when you think about like Harmony Korine films, or there are films where there's graphic and maybe mildly troubling or controversial content,
yeah,
but it's done in a way that's clearly artistic. Whereas this scene to me was this is not artistic. This is essentially just appealing to an increasingly depraved, degenerate culture that wants to
I don't
just sort
know.
of
I don't know the
mirror
context.
mirror yeah,
You know.
fair enough. No, I agree. I'm not asking you to. I'm not asking you to like.
So I think
It was an anecdote, and
it could be a statement about what happens when people are afraid to talk about sex, when it has to be seen as shameful and depraved and degenerate, and when you do that, these are the
I
kinds
think
of
it is
things that
those things
happen.
when you do it in high school with strangers. Yeah, when you have sex with
But they're gonna have
random
sex
kids you go to
anyway.
high school with. Wait, what?
They're gonna have sex anyway.
No, I see that as a personally. I see that as like a basically insidious, evil argument. It doesn't. I don't see
Why?
how that makes sense at all. Like, okay, because here's why. Right
Just
now, uh, most teenagers don't use heroin. Let's say in 50 years they all do, and then you go, we need to have clean needles in every high school public bathroom stall because they're going to do heroin anyway. Well, I guess if you reach a point where they're all doing heroin anyway, then it makes a lot of sense to say we got to give them clean needles. But the issue is, how did we get to the point where they were all doing it anyway?
Well, I would be
That's the
against
problem.
teens. I'd be against teens taking any kind of recreational drugs because they're still too young.
Why are
I
you not against teens having sex?
what age are we talking about? I think at certain
Let's just
ages it's
say
just natural for.
under 18. Let's just
Yeah,
say under
good.
18.
Yeah, that's
Why
just a
wouldn't we do it?
reality. Kids at that age are going to
I
have
don't
a
care if it's a
sexual
reality.
relation.
It's,
Yeah, it is.
kids at that age are also gonna kids at that age are also gonna beat the shit out of each other and sometimes kill each other.
Not as much as they're going to have sex. I don't
So the
think.
more something happens, like the more you should normalize it.
No, I
That
don't
seems like
think
a
that.
very
I don't see
slippery
any
slope.
problem. I don't see any problem with a young woman or a young man still under 18, exploring their sexuality, before they reach the age of 18. I mean, that just happens. That's like
Why?
every
All
single
risk and
high
no
school,
reward.
virtually every single high school
No,
student
I know it
in the
happens.
world.
I'm not arguing that it doesn't happen. I'm saying it's bad.
I don't think it's bad. I think it
What's
might
it's
be
all risk, no
undesirable. I
reward.
think it might be, I think excesses would be undesirable. And the way we can prevent some of the things that you were talking about
The
is,
amount of
is
risks involved in someone under 18 having casual sex with someone else
no,
under 18 compared
I don't think
to
they should have casual sex. I don't think children
what else
or
is exploring? Wait, you use the word exploring. How do you explore your sexuality in an uncasual way?
with your boyfriend or girlfriend.
Well, that's just being in a committed relationship. That's not, I
Yeah,
don't really take
that's
that as
not casual
exploring your
sex.
sexuality. That's just like expressing love to a person you're in a relationship
Yeah,
with. That's the vast majority of I'm sorry to break it to you, the vast majority of sex under 18 is not that.
right. And the vast majority is going to be kissing and fondling.
The vast majority is going to be I saw the most popular kids have sex, and on TV, on MTV, they're having sex, and on this, and so in rap music, they talk about having sex, and I feel cool if I can have. And again, I would even side with the feminists on this. It is toxic masculinity that young teenage guys think, oh, my body count, like that is disgusting, and I would push back against that also.
I would agree with
There's
you. I also agree that
yeah.
girls and boys should avoid having a lot of random sexual encounters. I don't think that's good
I
for a
just don't think
person.
they should have any personally, but I guess
And
we can
that's
agree to
yeah,
disagree on
that's
that one.
where I don't agree. I don't say any because um, 17-year-olds and 16 and some 16-year-olds are going to have sex, and it's going to
Again,
be
you keep going back to going to have. I,
yeah.
so going to have is not an argument for ought to have.
Well, I think that the ought on whether or not a child at that age ought to become sexually active would be something between herself or himself and his or her parents.
Parents? What do you mean? Like
Their
they have to ask
parents.
their parents and I have
They
sex?
should they should be open with their parents about typically, the girl would be open with her mother and probably not always include dad in admitting that yes, mom, I am sexually active. Yes, dad, I am sexually active. And that should be something that
Well, I'm not
people can
talking about
talk about.
admitting. I'm talking about
I think they should
making
be
the
able to
decision in the
talk
first
about it.
place to even do it.
I think they should be
Well,
able to
talking
talk
about
about it.
something after the fact. Well, okay, wait. I agree. After the fact, there should not be. I don't believe in making people feel guilty or sinful for having done it. So let's get that off the table right now. I agree
Well,
that there's
you
a
call
toxic
it
culture.
degenerate. I mean, how much more guilt shaming can you
Yeah.
do? I mean,
No, well,
you
look.
do guilt shame
No,
people about it. You
yeah,
do
well,
do
no, I
that.
don't. No, I
Yes, you
don't.
do.
No,
You
I don't.
call it
Listen,
degenerate and depraved.
let me make myself clear. I would not call an individual heroin addict that's 18 degenerate or depraved. What I would call degenerate and depraved is the cultural normalization of this.
Well,
That's degenerate and depraved.
nobody's normalizing heroin abuse.
I know, thank God, not yet, but we've normalized casual hookups in teenagers under 18. I'm not blaming the
I don't think
individual.
I've said several times I don't think I agree that casual sex is good for teens. I
It's
don't think
almost
so.
always casual. So I don't see how you
I don't
can
know if that's
simultaneously
true.
say it's just you're saying it's just gonna happen, but then saying it's not good if it's casual. Well, then it's like 95% of the time it's casual.
Well, there's an ideal that I believe in, which is that people should be free and open to discuss sex, and it should be free of
Discuss, yes.
and and do it if they so choose.
Well, I don't want to make it illegal. I want to have
You
the culture shift in a way that discourages it.
you
Under when
want
you're under,
you want to make it
I want
illegal?
I want to discourage casual sex for people under the age of 18.
So to get this correct, you
I
want to
don't want to
make
say it's just going to happen, so we should make it normal.
right, but you want to make underage sexual contact of any kind illegal.
No, 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 no. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I
I thought
don't
that's
want to
what
make
you.
it illegal. I
Okay, I
want
didn't
to.
hear the don't. I'm
No, no,
sorry. I'm sorry.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, no. No problem. I absolutely do not, like, I can't emphasize this enough. I do
No, I got
not
it.
want this to
I'm
be,
I'm clear. I'm
yeah,
clear.
yeah,
You
no,
don't want to make
not
it
illegal,
illegal.
not illegal.
Well, then how would you?
But I want to discouraged.
Well, go ahead and do that then. But other people, I think,
Okay.
have their own opinions on where to go with that.
Yep. And the world is just it's but a bunch of people's opinions, and this is mine, and I feel strongly about it. So yeah, you're free to have yours. I'm free to have mine. Maybe someday I'll convince people side with me. Maybe I won't. Maybe
Yeah.
your side of the argument will overwhelm
Well,
mine. But ultimately, I think that it's at least, I think it's been productive that we've at least established that we agree on some things. Certainly never not making it illegal. That would be crazy. But
you're right.
I guess I
And
personally,
also, on my
yeah.
end, I don't agree with random casual sexual hookups. I don't think that that's a good thing for people in general.
Well, what if it's not
Maybe
even
maybe
random?
for
What if it's
adults.
just like what if okay again and maybe you're not aware of this sort of thing, but there is a sentiment in high school in which, and again I'll restate this, very toxic on the teenage boys part. They want to up their body count, they whatever. But then
That's been
there's also
but
like
that's
a
been teenage boys since time began.
That's fine. And it's teenage boys since time began beat each other up and kill each other sometimes. Not as much as they have sex, but like I don't see how I don't measure how like to what degree something should be normalized and accepted in terms of how often it's happening and how often it's happened throughout history. Isn't that like, can you like just justifies like racism or like sexism in the same way? Like just because it's within our nature doesn't mean that it should just be normalized and accepted.
Right. So my norm here would be consent of people, and so when people are consenting,
Yeah, but we don't even let kids have tattoos under 18.
okay.
So clearly we understand that 16-year-olds, while they might consent, are not are in fact almost never making like, rational sound decisions about their
Well,
future and
sure,
things
but
that.
that's between the teenager and their parents, and it's I don't really see
No,
it.
but you said it's about talking about it with their parents after the fact. Are you saying they should get permission from their parents to have sex before they have sex?
I think it should be something that is an ongoing discussion. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's definitely interesting. I've never heard someone even propose that. Like,
Well, I think
or
it
a
would be
teenager be like,
better. I think
"Hi, mom and dad."
well, typically it would be like the daughter talking to mom and or the son talking to dad. I mean, typically that's how it
And
would
saying
go.
like, "I'm interested in having
Yeah,
sex with,"
you
like,
know,
"Hey, I'm
I
16. I have a 15-year-old girlfriend. We've been dating for a month and
yeah,
a half, and we'd like to have sex."
yeah.
Like, I can't imagine a parent being like, "Okay, good idea."
I
Like,
can
oh,
I
they'll
that would be my ideal. That I think number one, I think that that's probably there's plenty of places where that does happen. where parents are not hung up and sexually repressed, and so I
Wait a
think that
second.
that's an ideal.
Repressed. That's not, well,
Yeah, sexually
listen, it's
repressed.
not, you're not sexually repressing.
That's literally what you're
Saying that a
advocating.
16-year-old that's been dating a 15-year-old for a month and a half, like, I advise that you wait a little longer
Yeah,
before having sex. That's not
yeah. Wait until
repressing
about
sex,
16,
in my opinion.
then maybe 16 or 17, then maybe. I mean, I wouldn't want to have that conversation. I wouldn't know how to approach it, but I think that's between the parents and their son or daughter, their teenagers. See,
So if the
I'm
parent
just
says
very
no and the
I'm
kid
just
does it
very
anyway,
I'm just very not worried about what other people are doing in the bedroom. It's not something that I worry about unless there's somebody being harmed. That's what I would worry about. Other than that, I don't have very
well,
many worries. I,
yeah, but the word harm here is tricky because I personally think that a 16-year-old having sex with their what a 16-year-old girlfriend, whatever, like this in the I can't imagine a single person who's who like is married or in a relationship in their 40s. Like, I'm glad I had sex at 16 with my high school. Like, it's in retrospect, it's always like I was doing it because all my friends were doing it, and I thought it was normal, and I thought it would be fun. It's never like this was a important part of my development as an adult ever. That's never. No one says that. How many times do you hear about like the? It's like a
well,
meme. It's like,
I think it
oh
could
my, oh,
be.
my first time was so awkward. My first time was so awkward. Like, it's always about like pressure, like underclassmen girls, like, they feel embarrassed if all their friends lost their virginity and they didn't, so they find some upperclassman guy who's a fucking pig and wants to up his body count, and it's a
Jealous.
nasty and deep interaction. And I'm not trying to outlaw it or make it illegal, but it's like I think it's healthy and normal for us to discourage that as a society, but instead it's
Well,
being, in my opinion, encouraged, celebrated. It's just as long as you
I
do
think
it safely. And I don't,
I think you
I don't
can
approve of that.
I think you can discourage it if you have kids and stuff, but it's really none of your business what other people do.
Well, I participate in society. I like, do I vote? Like, what do you mean?
I don't think it's up
Again,
for
I don't want to
votes.
outlaw it.
It's not up for votes. It's not up to anybody's a
Well, yeah,
vote.
what I meant by that is like,
No, I
I'm
know.
not,
I know it's metaphor.
yeah, it's like I'm not just like, no man is an island, right? Like, if I have beliefs, then I'm going to speak about them and try to persuade people of others. I'm not going to force it down anyone's throat. I'm not going to ever like be the crazy guy that like
No, you can
forcing.
if you have children and you have a son or a daughter. This
Even
is
if I
probably
don't, I'm still gonna
yeah, it's
speak my
probably
mind.
something that will come up in your life.
Yeah, but even if I don't have
This
children,
decision?
still. But even if I don't, I'm still gonna. I see no problem with speaking my mind into society and my peers and saying I think this is
Yeah, and
bad,
other people are going to speak their mind back. And they don't
and
think it's any of your
I
damn
respect it.
business.
Yeah, and I respect their opinion to do so, and that's why I said we can agree to disagree. I don't think we have a fundamental disagreement about like you know changing something like legally, but we just disagree on sort I guess culture norms and whatever, and that's fine.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
totally fine.
generally very liberal. A progressive liberal, I guess. And I generally think that people should stay out of each other's business unless there's harm involved, right? Or lack of consent or something like that. But otherwise, I
Yeah, but we
think
know
people,
about statutory rape. There's right. Is that like
there
unfortunately?
can be a case, I would be, yeah, you brought that to mind, and that's a good point, which is that at a certain age and development, perhaps teenagers are not really sufficiently mature enough to make those kinds of decisions. I don't know what age that would be, but
Yeah, and
that
neither
would be
do I.
something
But
that
it,
would
but
change. That would be something that would change my mind about what age, for instance, a teenager could start having having sex, right? As when their maturity level, and I think that's
right.
going to vary a
But
lot.
this is, I think this is actually a pretty interesting point because it's almost like unanimous. It's unanimous about across both parties, as far as I've experienced, liberal and Republican, that everyone would view a 33-year-old guy having like like finding like chatting up a 16-year-old girl on a dating app and then meeting up and having sex. Almost everyone would say like this is fucked up. Like the 33-year-old is taking
Yeah, he'd
advantage of
be
the
arrested
16.
for statutory rape, and I
Right.
think probably should be. But
Exactly.
if the girl has a boyfriend, I think it might be a little bit different because when they're closer in age, then I think it is different.
But here's the question though, like, and like this is why I'm bringing it up. While I would agree that um, there's more blame on the 33-year-old in terms of like malicious intent and manipulation and being predatory. What I don't think necessarily changes is um, the maybe to an extent, but it definitely doesn't completely go away when when that 16-year-old uh, has sex. Period. It's like it's weird to me to think that like we all agree that this 16-year-old has been the victim of a predator and has suffered some sort of trauma or damage or assault, but that if the if the predator is young enough that there there's no longer damage, like there's no longer potential that any of that stuff could have happened to the girl. It's like, well, maybe less, but not none, or not certainly none. So that's why I'm saying like it's important to distinguish the law from what's culturally normal. So like, should it be Italy? Should a 17-year-old boyfriend face the same punishment? And honestly, I'm only using this because of convention when I say that it's the boyfriend doing it to the girl. It could be the other way. The gender thing is not important. I'm just sort of appealing to convention here. But like, if a 17-year-old person has sex with a 16-year-old person, we obviously would not say the 17-year-old person is like a sexual predator.
Yeah,
Um,
I have no idea what the laws are about that.
yeah,
Just
but what
based on
about the
my intuition,
16-year-old
I would
person?
agree. I would agree based on my intuition. I have no, yeah.
Yeah, but like it's like the 16-year-old person still had sex and now has to like I think that I don't think that there's just a random line where if the boyfriend is old enough, is young enough, there's no potential for harm. I think that if you're having sex at a young enough at an age, I would just draw the line at 18, just arbitrarily because you have to draw an arbitrary line. That
I think in
it's way more likely that any sexual act, um, and I don't mean making out or
I don't know
groping, I mean
why
like
the
penetrative sex.
age of consent in most states in the United States is between 16 and 17.
Well, yeah, and that's also along with a law that like if the one of the people's 3 years older, it that goes away.
Yeah, so if the age of consent is 16 or 17, then I mean if they're of that age, and if you know they have an open relationship with their parents where they are able to discuss these things, then I don't see the problem.
Well, if
I do see
okay,
a
so if the
problem.
age of
I do
consent
see
is
a problem with
16 and they have an open relationship with their parents and the boyfriend is 40,
no. Then I have a
is there a
problem.
problem?
Yes, yes,
Okay, why?
because there's a bigger power dynamic between between them. He's much more able to take advantage, right? If a girl is is simply has a boyfriend who's 16, right? He doesn't have the the ability to manipulate and
He
control
might
her the
have the
way
ability. What if it's a 40 year
he might.
old loser who's a virgin and a 16-year-old captain of the football team who's already had sex with 50 other high school girls? And he just knows that how to talk this chick up.
Yeah. So that's why she should be talking to mom and dad.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to like this is getting a little bit into the weeds, but all I'm saying is that I think that it's safer to just discourage sex under 18 altogether, not outlaw, not make
Well,
illegal, and not even guilt or shame anyone that's done it after the fact. But
well,
the same
yes,
way,
I understand. My position is if the age of consent is 16 or 17 in the state, and then you should have then the teenager should have a open the ability to talk openly and candidly with their parents about their sexual activity, and that I think this is the best way to reduce unwanted pregnancies and the proliferation of STDs, right? It's when things are made shameful and in your words, degenerate and um,
the
all the other
culture, the
all the other
normalization of
things.
the
That's
cultural
when.
normalization is degenerate, not the
No,
not
I don't think. I
necessarily
would like to
active.
have my view that I just explained normalized.
Yeah, and what if that resulted in hypothetically 99.9% of parents saying, "Fight if you're not allowed to have sex," and that would just be my model.
Then that's their choice. That's fine.
The parent's choice.
No, you asked. I would like to have my view normalized, which is that sex should be free of guilt and shame, and that when a teenager is of legal age of consent, then and able to talk openly with their parents about it, that's fine. That's my position. And you said, well, what if they all just said no, you can't have sex? And I'm saying, okay.
Okay, but then that yeah, I think that's interesting because I think that would happen. I just don't see a lot of parents saying to their 16-year-old teenage child, "Oh, you want to have sex? Yeah, yeah." Like they might say, what I imagine they would say is, "I I don't think it's a good idea, but if you're gonna do it, please use protection." Something along those lines.
Well, I think that
I think
kind of
that's the
closes. I
right thing
understand.
to say.
Yeah, I understand, but that kind of closes off further discussion. So um, that's leaves open the possibility of things going badly. I mean, if you just say no, you shouldn't be doing this, but use protection, you should be able to
This is where,
maintain the lines of communication with your teenager.
I mean, how would you phrase it if a parent like okay, hypothetical extreme, the parent is aware of like the daughter's boyfriend
I would
and
want to know
and
more about the
he's
boyfriend or the girlfriend or the girlfriend. I'd want
well,
to
let's
know
just
more
say that the
about them.
boyfriend has a reputation for like
Then I would
he has a new
say,
girlfriend every month.
yeah.
Everyone knows he's a player. Everyone knows that he,
Then
gossips to
I'd
his
say
friends about
no.
his body count.
Yeah, I would say no if I knew these kinds
Well,
of things. I think that I would hope
okay,
that my daughter would agree that she doesn't need to do that.
yeah,
And
okay, good. That we're off
I
to
think that if you have open and guilt-free conversations about sex with your teenage daughter or son, then it's less likely that they're going to be uh, subjected to somebody who's a predator like that or scum or whatever you want to call him. I think it's less likely.
Mm,
I think that
okay.
my
I
approach
could.
reduces the possibility, or the chances, the probability of STDs, unwanted pregnancy, and even um, harmful relationships, or where the one party's being taken advantage of. That's what I think.
Maybe I'd have to think about that more. Only because I feel like there's so much teenage rebellion. Like teenagers often want like almost want to rebel against their parents. But that's a little bit unfair. I think your characterization is.
Well, I
I
think
don't
that that's
think that
fair. I
that's.
think teenagers do want to rebel against their parents. I think that's true.
Yeah, so
That's
it's kind
just
of like,
being
hey
that's
mom,
just
hey
being a
dad, there's
teenager.
this bad boy. He has tattoos. He smokes cigarettes. He
Yes.
rides a motorcycle.
He's
Can I
hot.
have sex with him?
That's
No,
called
honey, we don't
that's
think it's a
called
good
like
idea.
yeah, that's called like James Dean. That's like every Hollywood star for the last 70
Yeah,
years. Yeah, there's yeah.
yeah, yeah, and that's bad.
No, it's good when it's bad. It's
What do you
better when it's bad.
mean?
Really bad.
Oh. Are we getting into the
No, I'm just saying that
girl?
that I'm just saying that yes, definitely bad boys have a certain attraction to teenage girls. Of course they do.
Okay,
Of course.
yeah, yeah,
For
and I guess I'm
precisely
not saying they
for
don't.
precisely the reasons that mom would disapprove.
Hmm?
Usually, I think
I
so.
don't. Well, I think that I think that girls are generally drawn to bad guys whether or not mom disapproves. I think that it stems from
Well, I
a
think it depends on the girl.
primordial attraction to risk taking
Yeah, but
behavior.
I think that that's going to vary quite a lot between individuals. So I'm not sure it's all of them. So,
Yeah, I mean, but
but
like, think
still,
about this: like, if the mom, like, you couldn't, a mom couldn't, if it was that easy that like a mom could reverse psychology their daughter, like, listen, whatever you do not hook up with that straight A student, that good Christian boy. You better not date. Does the daughter go, oh, mom doesn't want me to, I better go? Like, I think they're always going to go for the biker with the tattoos who smokes cigarettes and like steals 40s from the gas station, and
well,
I don't know.
steals 40s
I
from
don't
the
know.
gas station.
Maybe
Okay.
not.
I,
Yeah, that one's up for debate. I'm not
somewhat, but I'm not sure that always because straight A students happen to do fairly well in life.
later in life. Never, they usually don't peak in high school, but yeah, later in life. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
But
I
okay,
feel I
I
feel
think
like
we.
I'm wanting
I
to
think.
go. Okay.
Yeah, what was I was gonna say we had a. I think we actually had a pretty good conversation, so I think it's a good place
Yes.
to leave this off. And
I can have the conversations that I have vary greatly depending on how many people are in the room. When it's just one on one, I can have much better. Even with flat earthers, I can have much better conversations, but it's very difficult to get them into one on one situations.
yeah, yeah, I feel for you. So, all right. Well, this has
Thank
actually
you.
been a pretty good talk, Brenda.
Yeah, thank you. And you should talk to Tom
Yeah,
Jump some
I
more
appreciate
too.
your.
Talk to Tom Jump more.
I try to, but he's a little bit hard to get a hold of. But I would
As
like to
he's had
talk to
some
him some
one on
more.
one Twitch stream sessions lately, but whatever.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah, I'll try to get
he's not nearly as nice and even a personality as I am.
back.
That was a joke.
Well,
That was a joke.
okay,
That was a
yeah,
joke.
he's a conversation for another time.
He can
Anyway,
get pissed off.
yeah,
All
oh yeah,
right.
he can
All
be a
right.
very.
Thank you.
If anything else, he's very impatient. I'd say, like,
Yes.
he quickly cuts people off and seems to have a kind of like, I hate to say this word, but I almost get a borderline on the spectrum vibe from him in terms of like
No, I
seeing
agree.
visible
I think he's
frustration.
said as much. I think he's said as much.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Okay,
Yeah, so I think he might.
that's neither here nor there. Just another debate.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.